Good morning, I'm Susan Cousineau. This is the office hour for Oregon State University PDC-PRO Fall 2023. This is Zoom number 10, and the next lesson due is lesson 10, final lesson, concept plan and local network survey on March 11th, 2024. Okay, so we're just going to give a little overview of the lesson today, or the lesson that's coming up. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do a screen share with the rubric. Make sure I got the right one here. Okay. So looking at Notion. Okay. Yeah, just making sure I've got the right thing. I'm going to change to a full screen here. Full width. Yeah, it's all text. Okay. Here's below some comments that others have had as they finish the course. Okay, so this is the rubric for the final lesson plan coming up. So you're going to have your existing plan map. So as your site is currently, or as it was when you drew it, it's fine if things have changed through the course. Just go with the map that you've got. Don't muck around with this. This is 0.5 marks, right? So don't feel like you need to update anything. Just go with like where it was at when you did the existing plan map. And that's probably going to be going back to your base map. Then you're going to be developing your concept plan map. Now this is quite detailed, so you can see it's like 6 points is a fairly large chunk of the marks for this assignment. So you're going to be developing a more detailed concept plan with all the different elements and different aspects. So there's going to be water management, soil fertility, where your plants are located. So I'm going to go into this in the assignment in just a moment. Mission statement and goals list, a couple of points there. So what you're going to have is like a main mission statement for your property. For instance, ours might be we foster native biodiversity while producing food and growing our skills in sustainability or resilience, something like that. So just like a broad overarching mission statement. Within that, we're going to have some sub goals, like 2 or 3 sub goals. For instance, one of our immediate goals is to be reducing the number of or changing the number of animal structures that we have and integrating them with our garden beds, building some new garden beds. So basically that goal would be to create an integrated animal garden bed system. Another second goal could be begin developing the front yard or create a plan for the front yard. And then a third goal would be complete 2 cob walls on our property. So something like that. So just something, you can make this like highly specific. You can take the SMART route of SMART goal planning, which I recommend if you want to detail that out, or just like pick kind of a broad goal, but something that is specific. You can look at it, look back and say like, hey, that is finished. So don't choose a goal like increase sustainability. I mean, unless you're going to put some metrics on that. So like you're going to increase your food production by 25% and you're actually ready to measure and like collect that data so that you can see where your numbers are increasing. So I would choose like very measurable and tangible goals so that you can reward yourself when you're done and you can see very, very clearly when you're done. And that can be like within 3 to 6 months, even a year. So keep them fairly time limited. Okay, your proposed zones and pathways map. So this is going to be your routes of travel. Now remember, this is proposed. So what are you envisioning? So what is it going to be like? Your water management plan, this is going to be pulling forward from the water analysis layer. So integrating things like your rainwater tanks, if you're doing a rain garden or any kind of like a pond structures, even swales could go into this. It fits better in water management than really in soil fertility, but sometimes there is some overlap there, and that's a judgment call you can make in completing your own assignment. If you're going to be doing any gray water, you can plan that out and include it on this map. Your concept plan for soil fertility map and strategy. So this is going to be where your compost is going to go. Are you putting in cover crops? Where are materials coming in? How are they going to be distributed? Any aspects like that. And then your phase plan and budget. This is where I see a lot of students get kind of hung up, and I'll go through it in detail in the assignment in just a moment. And essentially, this is your best guess with the information and the knowledge you have right now. Now, I encourage you, and you're welcome to reach out to contractors that you might want to work with, or that may be doing something similar in another area. So try not to call like who might be your next competitor if you do go into landscaping. but you can call around, you can call and ask around and find out like what the rates are, and or where do they go for local materials might be another question that you could ask of like a local landscaper. You can call up landscaping companies and get quotes on like different, on delivery, materials by the yard. So typically you're going to be ordering things in like, kind of 1 to 3 yard quantities. For like urban and suburban sites, you might have a need for much higher quantities, like a dump truck load is more like 8 yards. If you're working on like more like a farm property or larger space. And then, you can put an estimate of, for instance, like labor on an hourly rate if you're hiring people to come in and do work for you. I would encourage you to put an hourly rate on your own time, just so that you can keep that in check. Because your time is valuable. If you're doing, if you're putting a lot of time and effort into implementation, you may not be going out and doing some other income generating activity, or, so your time is valuable. So do try to work that into your budget where you can. If you need to make a guess, and you can just put an asterisk by it of like, this is an estimate, this is a wild estimate based on this information. Everything's going to be revised, even when we detail out a budget for clients, for land design, or for for doing grant work and different educational projects or whatever it is. We can build in as much as 25 to 30% like wiggle room of like, this may be, costs go up, gas prices increase, labor costs are increasing, you have to get something from further away than you thought, or the native plants you wanted are more difficult to get than you thought, and so you're going to have to go further afield. All sorts of things can come into play here. So I'm just going to welcome somebody in, and this is Kate. Okay. All right. Hi, Kate. Oh. Hello. I can see you. Don't know if I can hear you. Okay, I can see you. Hear you. Going to finish my assignment, overview, then take cues. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sounds like not. And figure out the tech. So then if anyone's watching the replay. Okay. Now I'm going to assume I'm not muted. I'm not muted. Okay, this looks like it's working. I can see but can't hear. Okay. All right, let's see what, okay, so I'm going to finish this up and then I'll get to Kate. Okay, so the permaculture principles and social permaculture, you're going to go back all the way to the beginning and find those 12 permaculture principles. And even if you Google them, like look them up online or look them up in different books, there can be like 12, sometimes there's 15, and there's some variation between different trainers of how many and which specific permaculture principles. So there is some flexibility here in which ones you use, but that's like, using waste as a resource, small, slow solutions, things like that, or manage the edges, or utilize your edges. So value marginality, all of those things are different permaculture principles that you may use to highlight. Don't feel like you need to hit all 12 of them. Choose like 3 to 5 that you're going to highlight in the work that you're doing, and then really like detail those out rather than trying to hit everything all at once. Okay, and then a SWOT analysis. This is half a point, not a huge amount. It's important, but get it in, get it done, move on. And then your local network survey. This is your opportunity to find out who's in your area that you could call on as a resource, either informational, there might be educational resources, might be your resource conservation district office, for instance. Those are good people to make friends with. Could be landscaping companies, similar companies that you could look to for mentorship, or even a job after this course if that was something you're interested in doing, or interning. Yeah, okay, so that's the rubric. I'm going to close this window out. Okay. And now we're going to go stop the share. want to make sure. Yeah, I'm going to test this. That's working. Okay, testing, making sure it works. Okay. Okay, so my test seems to work. My test on mic and headphones seems to work. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the assignment. You could come back. Sometimes that works. I know if you're watching the replay, you can only hear me mumbling through as I'm typing. So my apologies for that. Okay. I see her smile, so maybe she's hearing me. Oh, it's working now. Okay. Okay. So you, oh, I need to ask you to unmute. Okay. I can ask you to unmute.
Hi.
There you are. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Okay, so I put your assignments at the top of the list because I saw you got them in last week, and I'm not sure what was happening in my life last Thursday that I didn't get to them. And I can look up and have an idea. But they are done now. I marked them this morning.
Yay. Thank you.
I did not do video feedback because they were so great. I was just gonna like go through and be like, oh, this is awesome. This is so beautiful. Okay, so here you go. So this is awesome. Just like play this on repeat. Scrolling back through your assignment. It's really nice. I did give you comments. I would be highly suspicious of that dark oily stuff in that one site because it's right next to the driveway. Yeah. I'm not particularly optimistic about anything today, but that feels justified, and yeah, maybe it would be worth.
The color of the water was so different too from the other two samples. It was like a reddish orangey brown, where the other two are just kind of clear and cloudy. So I thought that was really interesting.
So I did say that, I mean, that may be motor oil. It actually sounds like when there's a lot of iron in the soil, like if you have a bucket of nails or like a bucket of metal and it goes really, really rusty, it'll get that oily film on top, and of course it'll turn red. So it may be that, like, for whatever reason, there's a lot of, like, maybe there's some like metal junk underneath or something, or it was sitting on top of there and cleared off. I don't know.
Interesting. They do have metal fencing along that side. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Doesn't seem like that would have enough to do it. Like it could, or if it's something was sitting there for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be worth getting tested. And you would see that come up in a soil test. If your iron was off the charts, it would show up as that.
Okay. And just that one area to get tested? What do you think?
I think that's up to you or your client's budget, and see and to see how much testing is for you. I wouldn't bother with like, the Regen Ag labs or anything, but just find like a really basic localish soil testing. Sometimes your city or the county will offer it either at a discount or, yeah, I don't want to say for free, but sometimes they will offer soil testing. Nice. You could also call up like kind of like environmental cleanup companies, but they may be charging a premium because they're expecting it to be like a brown field or like something really bad. Okay. But I would just start with like some basic soil tests, which, I mean, if you wanted to, you can even get ones that you can do at home. But I think it's more, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. That's kind of something that you can cost out and see how much energy and effort you want to put into it, or if you want to just package up some soil and send it off.
Sure. Yeah.
But whatever you do, if you do end up testing all 3 sites, don't amalgamate them, which I'm sure you wouldn't, which, it seems kind of obvious, but like, don't mix them together, like really test them as 3 separate sites. So. Okay. Because when I was going through the little overview, I said I would do this. I'm just going to go through a quick overview with the template of lesson 10. And then we can chat. Have you got specific questions, or are you just popping into?
I'm popping in, and also I have like 1 or 2 questions. I'm almost done with assignment 8. I'm really trying to catch up and get this all completed.
Yeah,
so
you will. Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go over lesson 10 and then we'll jump into your questions. So I don't really expect anybody else to show up because there's a few leading the pack. The rest are, I don't know if they're gonna re-enroll. It's really common to get to this point with a small group where we've got like 1 or 2 that are finishing, but okay. So local network survey, that's all straightforward. Amazing farm, amazing designer in different parts of your area. You can change these to like, you know, an amazing landscaping company, whatever floats your boat, suits your context. Yeah, design, okay. And then your concept plan, this is the big beast. So this is your existing base map. Keep in mind, it's worth half a point. Take your existing plan and drop it in here and move on. I mean, fix up your scale, get all this information in here, but don't spend a lot of time there. This is where you want to start spending your time, is outlining these specific design elements. So this is your final concept design. So when we say a concept design, it's like, where do I expect that things are going to go? And you know, you may not have gotten out there and measured like this tree is going to be 21 meters or 21 feet or whatever from the house. This, you know, these bushes are going to be 2.5 feet apart or whatever. But just, this is the concept, and like, this is where I expect these elements to go. This is what I'm planning out. It's not expected to be a final design. Especially, you know, with a 20-week course, you're not going to likely to get to that stage here. So it's fine if that's not where you're at. This will be design elements like planting areas, might be like planting beds, fruit tree gills. You might even have like your water tanks, depending on how much stuff, you know, just kind of get it all drawn together in this map. And then this is where you're going to part it out. So like the specific aspects, so the proposed zones, pathways, fences, and gates. So this is going to be what influences zones of travel. So this can be people travel. If your dogs go racing through a certain area and tend to tear up, you know, vegetation or whatever, that can be another zone or pathway, whatever works for your property and for the context. Okay, so like I said when I was going through the rubric, this is your main goal. So like increase biodiversity, increase our resilience, grow some food, have a nice place for our kids, whatever that is. So your overarching statement, and then your specific goals. So it might be like this: redirect water from a muddy spot, you know, develop a composting site, and, you know, build a retaining wall. Whatever it is, keep it specific, keep it so that you can look back on it, you know, once you're done and say like, okay, that is done, moving on. Stay away from things like increase the number of native plants, or, you know, like something really vague where you can look back and be like, well, I did that, but I could keep doing it. Pick something that you can really wrap up and complete, ideally within like 3 to 6 months, maybe a year if you're, you know, you're highly motivated and you know you're going to stick with that. So give yourself some easy wins to start with. Okay, here's gonna be your water management. So this is the detailed place where you're gonna detail out all your rainwater harvesting, if you're doing gray water, what your existing water systems are, irrigation, spigots, all of that stuff. So details here. And then there's some really nice examples to look to how people have laid that out. Don't forget your legend, all your information. Should be old hat by now by the time you've got to this point. So similar for soil fertility. So how you're going to improve it, where your like materials management is, like if you're bringing in a lot of wood chips or you're bringing in manure or something, where's that going to land when it comes onto the property? How are you going to move it to, say if you have to move it to the back of the property, move it to where it's needed. So these are all important elements to have in this section. If you're doing cover cropping, all of that stuff can go in here. Okay, vegetation and element details. So here's a good example of an overlap. You might put cover cropping in here as part of your soil fertility strategy. You could also include it, and you could include it in both as here of like a design element, like this is going to be an area of cover crop, you know, ground cover. We're going to put in like a clover lawn or something. It could go in both, and that's okay. So now you can just look to what your specific elements are that are specific to what you're going to be planting. So again, our examples are good opportunity to see, like here's scarlet runner beans up the fence, fenced in annual garden, There's some perennial rose, bushberries, stuff like that. So just give us a plan of what you're going to be putting in. Part 2. Yeah, so this is going to be, you know, either a second area. This is usually what students do, and this is what I like to see students do. So area management 1, or the primary management area 1, is usually like it's more like a zone 1, like a really detailed aspect that you're going to be planting out. So it might be a specific guild, or like a specific area at the front of the house or in the backyard, like our raised bed zone. And then this area 2 tends to be more like, you know, what these folks have done, an all over planting map. So then like that little zone in front of the house that you detailed in the first area is a subset of this bigger zoned out map. And so again, like you can have estimates on distances, kind of approximately where those plants are going to go. All that gets dialed in once you're actually at the planting point. You can find out things like, am I getting blueberries in 1 gallon or 5 gallon pots? Or all of those details are what goes into like your really final like design, which you may not get to as part of the work that you're doing here, and that's fine. Okay, and then the phasing plan and budget. Now this is where some folks get hung up. It's totally okay to basically almost, not quite, but almost be guessing at everything. Take your best shot, get a number in, and then at a certain point you might be like, wow, that's going to be really high. Like say you dropped an extra 0 in like on plant mulberry so many feet from the tiny house. Like, I mean, that's not going to be a $1,500 tree. You might be like, you know what, I could actually get like a 2-year-old sapling for $150, you know. So start to look at your number, like get some numbers in, and then you can either, like I said, you can start to call contractors, you can call suppliers, get that dialed in. Something like IBC totes, you might find a great deal on Craigslist where, you know, like each IBC tote being $150, that's a lot. I found them for 20 to 50 bucks. It's not common, but you can shop around. And so sometimes that budget's going that often, almost always, that budget's going to change over time as you get more information. So make your best guesses. You know, it's not necessarily going to be a 5-year, this isn't just going to be like your total multiplied by 5. Which is pretty extreme, because usually your biggest costs are going to be in the first year or 2 as you're getting things established, especially if you're installing infrastructure. Rainwater harvesting can be super expensive to get installed, but you get that in early and you're not paying for it again for at least like 10 years. Solar, I can see this person has solar on here. That's, you know, a good example of another like big cost outlay, but then you're not paying for it again this year. So just multiplying the total by 5 is a pretty good way to like way overestimate your budget. On the other hand, if you're basically estimating out planting certain areas, like planting an area 1 year and the next year another area, and that's going to be kind of consistent, you could just ballpark it and multiply it by 5. That's a judgment call. You can also multiply this and do a budget for each year, so you can see this is year 1, and just multiply that slide and just ballpark it for all 5 years. You know, just see what comes up for you. So guaranteed it's going to change, so don't worry about that. Like I said before, in client reports, we typically budget in 25 to 30% over costings, or over under, so flex. And often it does. I'm not going to say it usually goes over, but because of materials, things that come up, client changes their mind along the way, all of those things, like that budget can really change. And so you want to make sure that's clear when you're laying that out. Okay, I think I went over the permaculture principles pretty well. Just choose the main principle that you want to apply, and then, you know, if there's others that are related to that. The social permaculture elements are more going to be like related to community, your family involvement, things like that. So how you're supporting not just your own family and your own property, but the people around you. How you might be networking with other businesses is a good way to look at that too. So some of the examples here: build community. Most people tend to focus on building community, but you might also look at like educational aspects, even how you're educating your own children is a good way to go. Then there's your SWOT analysis, which by now is old news and not too many points, but super important. And I'd love to see this well developed for your final assignment. Okay, and then if you've done an appendix, clean that up, round it out, scan back through if you see anything you want to fix, and you're done. And Kate, you are totally going to get to that point. I can totally see. Okay, so there's the lesson 10. Congratulations for anybody at any point that's making it to this point. Give yourself a pat on the back and pour yourself an extra cup of tea, or whatever your beverage of choice is. Okay, now let's get into it. Kate, what have you got? Well,
okay. So on lesson 8, the second portion of the assignment, I'm about to do, so I finished up the plant appendix plan portion, and I'm about to move over to the cross section. For this, is it the same cross section that we picked for, was that early? I'm getting a little confused. Was that earlier or was that last assignment 7?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. Or is it just a specific cross section? Because I just took kind of what I'm prioritizing for my plan and dropped that in and focused on that for the plants. And then the cross section would extend about halfway out of the picture, basically.
Okay, so
for my original cross section, I guess.
Yeah. So I just want to bring it up here. You're right, because I'm forgetting where exactly that first one is. It's not the base map. No, wouldn't it be after the base map? Line interview, sector compass, microclimates, current zones.
Oh yeah, it's in 15, assignment 15, which is from assignment 7, or lesson 7, I should say.
Yeah, the first one. Right. So this is like your longest, basically your longest path through the design site.
Yes.
So whole design site, and then, right, when you're doing your cross section here.
In the plant system design?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just going to be that specific area that you're designing.
Okay, great. That's good news.
Okay. I was pretty sure that was the right answer, and I wanted to make sure I was accurate, and that was what you were asking. So okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay. I mean, honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about the rest of the assignment because I've got the plant matrix all filled out, and I just included every plant. I think maybe I got a little specific on certain varieties, which I guess will be fine for the future.
Oh wait, I'm in the template, not your own.
Oh, it's all good.
I'm just looking. I don't see anything that's excessively specific. Do you have an example of what might be?
Well, maybe just the olive trees that I am thinking about if we do that direction.
Okay, why did you choose that olive tree?
I chose it because it's a medium-sized tree and it still produces fruit.
Great.
The one thing about this specific variety, though, is that it needs another olive tree variety of sorts to pollinate. It's not self-pollinating. So then I figured I could do a potted version that's great as a porch inside or potted olive tree. But yeah, I guess like what's the importance at this level of the assignment of getting specific, or is it totally fine to just be kind of?
I mean, you can be totally general, but like if you, I mean, you've got a well-justified reason for picking that variety. You know, yeah, medium-sized tree that does fruit is a great choice for a suburban site. So I would by all means, if you've got a variety that you've chosen for like, yeah, a justified reason, include it here.
Okay,
sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then my other question, which is actually a little more on the lines of being specific. So the client is wanting hedge shrubs to create a privacy screen on both sides of the north and south property. But they have on the south side near the driveway, they have like a really not so wide space for planting. And I wonder if you have any knowledge on some of the varieties I chose, if they do any damage to the concrete, if their root systems get super wide, if that would be an issue. I mean, they're also not like super happy with the amount of concrete that's poured in the front. One of the past owners did that, and they were like, I don't know why, because it took up essentially like the whole front yard.
It's a lot.
So I'm like, why did they do that? They didn't even put like a basketball court, like nothing, just concrete.
Yeah, well, that is one option. I mean, if they're willing to bust up some of that concrete, you could do a really nice thing with like either some, if they want to have still some hard surface there, they could do like some pavers or something. A bush anemone and a blue elderberry. The blue elderberry may create some issues. I'd be surprised if the anemone did, but the elderberry is like a pretty vigorous rooting tree.
Yeah,
and rerooting. Like once it's established, I mean, you don't really want to get it, there's not very many instances I know of where someone's trying to like really get rid of an elderberry. But for instance, like we cut one back really hard because it got infested by something. It was like, I think it was an aphid. So we cut it back to like a 2.5, 3 foot stump. And the next year that thing had like 4 foot shoots off of it again. Like it's just, they're really, I mean, we thought for sure it was a goner, but we're like, it was so badly hit with like whatever pest this was, which is like not a very good testament to like our whole permaculture system. But we weren't willing to spray it. So we're like, well, let's just see like cutting back if it survives. And it's done really well since. But yeah, it comes back really vigorously. So that may create issues for concrete when it's that close.
Okay.
So that's something that I'd really look at more like, kind of poppy type things, like more like a wildflower mix or like very small shrubs rather than like a really rooted, like a woody shrub.
Okay. Small shrubs. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking, but the blue elderberry is a great companion plant for the bush anemone, so I was kind of going on those vibes there.
Oh, yeah, those are good vibes. I would go with jackhammer plant. Get
it out of there. I mean,
especially if they recognize that it's too much.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they could get rid of at least like 5 to like beyond. They have a little gate right there at that southeast corner. If they just pushed it all the way back and created more ground for planting there, I feel like that could be.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then I had another plant specific question that was more on the shrub line, because I'm trying to pick shrub species that are smaller, or at least they can prune them, once or twice a year to keep them maintained at a specific size. I was looking at the Pacific wax, but I feel like everything I've seen, they can get like really, really big. And what I'm concerned with, I would be putting them on the north side fence line, but the neighbor has a really beautiful native garden. And it's like, I would never want something to get so tall that it would shade out some of their plantings over there. So do you have any insight on?
I heard Pacific flax, but what did you actually say?
Pacific wax.
Wow.
Like a candle. Yeah.
What is it?
It's a native.
Wax myrtle. Oh.
Yeah, wax myrtle.
Okay.
I forgot that last word.
Oh, now, okay. I've never known what this was called. I've just seen it.
Yeah, they look really cool, but from the pictures, they look like all at 15 or 20 feet, like huge, which is not really necessary.
Okay.
That amount of privacy.
Yeah. Are they willing? I mean, anything can be trimmed back. You might find You know what might be a better fit that I haven't seen grow that tall? Are you familiar with Natal plum?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Tall plum.
And it's not native, unfortunately.
That's okay. They want to focus on native as much as possible, but like, you know, we've got olive trees in there. We've got
Yeah.
elephant bush. We've got things that are drought tolerant that still make sense, but it doesn't like have to be native.
Okay.
I would just say
That's,
like a majority of native species would be the goal.
okay, Carissa macrocarpa is what you're looking for. So we have these growing, like, I mean, they're kind of all, I mean, all up and down the street. But if they get enough sun, they produce these really, I mean, they look like a plum. And it's like a bright red kind of a berry, I guess. And they're pretty sour. And if you eat them too early, they can be really, what's the word, like acrid, it's not acrid, kind of like acidic. They've almost got this like latexy stuff in them, which can be kind of off-putting. But if you like them, they're really good. Like our daughter would run up the street to go collect Natal plums. It was the funniest thing because we couldn't figure out what she was saying. She's like, she wanted to go collect like natas or something. We were like, what are you talking about? And then she's like, the pink things. I was like, oh, the Natal plums. Yeah. Oh, okay. And they put out a really pretty like little white flower. Looks kind of like jasmine.
Cute.
They've got horrific spikes on them. So that's the only thing. I mean, they're really good deterrent. You know, but you don't want to walk through them and they can be kind of fiddly to you know, pick the plums off. But the berries are like big enough that they're easy to grab. But it's really pretty. It's got like a nice bright green leaf. I mean, here they're evergreen, so that might be
that.
or interesting
Okay, cool.
to see see how that goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then one other more specific question. With their existing very minimal vegetation, it's kind of more like the succulent cacti vibe. So I'm still trying to implement some of those elements. And I wanted to add a couple yucca varieties. One of the spots in mind is close to the garage. And I did read that some of the yucca species can have some issues with foundational root interactions with being too close to buildings. Do you have any insight on that?
I've never heard that or seen it. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Okay. The one I did like a specific variety, and it was supposed to be like a smaller 2 to 3 foot
Yeah. Okay.
guy. So, okay. So I just don't want to be doing anything that would cause them any damage.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't say that I very often see them that close to a house, but I don't see why not. Yeah, I haven't heard that before. That's all. I guess that's all I should say. If I haven't heard it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So
Okay. Okay, cool. Those are pretty much my only questions.
okay.
I mean, I haven't, that overview for 10 was really great, and I'll go back and watch the overview for 9 once I jump into that.
Okay.
But I haven't really like looked at it to see if I have anything that comes up question wise.
Okay. How do you feel like you're doing for time?
I mean, you know what? Like the research part is really enjoyable, and I love learning about like all the knowledge and getting that stuff into place, and it's really helping me feel like it's coming together and I'm able to kind of answer questions without having to do a bunch of research, which I think is cool. The part that takes me the longest is the formatting on Google Slides. Like, oh my God, like, you know, I'll start something and then realize, okay, I've got too many, you know, pictures or whatever, and I kind of need to shift everything to a different side and whatnot. So, I mean, time-wise, with 8, I got through all the course materials pretty quickly in terms of like the learning videos. But yeah, it was a little heftier than I was anticipating, I think, with just the time.
Yeah.
Overall.
Okay.
But I don't want to like
do this on video.
myself out. I'm like, I can do this. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. Oh, you will do it. Yeah, for sure. I'm like, maybe I should go off the record for this. But I mean, I really do try to like stick to the, get your final assignment in by 9 a.m. on the Monday, which is March 18th, before, let me see, because your course officially closes out March 24th, which is the Sunday.
Yeah.
But and I was pretty strict about getting it in that Monday because we had planned to be going to Canada on the 20th. So it's like, I'm going to need that Tuesday, A, for packing, B, for booking. But I don't think I'm going to have really many assignments at all, like final submissions to mark. And we had to bump our trip out to August for like 400 different reasons. So if you want to just get it in when you can, because I have like the break starts that Monday. So get it in when you can, but don't feel like if you're really hustling, don't get it done so you're happy with it that week. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes
so
sense.
Dow, like the admin, I shouldn't, it's not just on Dow, but like admin would really wants us to have our marking in by the end of the following week. And so of course, if somebody's got 50 students and like 15 of them are submitting, we can't have everybody submitting on Friday the 22nd or like midnight. So some people are actually asking like, oh, can I submit at like midnight on the 23rd? And I'm like, please don't. Like, but yeah,
Hopefully
because I think it's going to be you and maybe one or two other people, like get it in so that you're comfortable with it. But I know because you've also been working really hard to catch up, like you're going to have time to finish. Like,
okay, good.
Okay.
Great. And then as far as the peer reviews go, like for that last assignment, how does that work? Like, let's say there's no other assignments that are turned in within like a time period. Like, is it that big of a deal?
You know what? I would just go through and give, again, off record, just give yourself the marks, or like go back and like look at somebody else or something. I don't know. Look at the student, spend 5 minutes looking at the student examples of what other people have done.
Okay.
Because you can't control what everybody else is doing. You're right. But they do. I think that is actually like a required component. So give yourself the marks.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's also like there's no point you should get 0 because nobody else submitted their assignments, right? It doesn't. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, if you want to spend some time looking at student examples or something like that, then that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right.
Lots to cover.
Yeah. But you're doing. You're doing a beautiful job there. Like it's looking really nice. So.
Yeah, that water segment really did catch me up though. On assignment 5, it really took me time to get through that. I don't know what it was, but it definitely taught me that I'm not as, I mean, it's cool and it's important to know, but I'm definitely not as fascinated by the water component of permaculture design. And I'm like, is it because we live in like a drought area? I don't know, but the urban.
We all find our areas. Like for me, honestly, don't tell it. It's plants. Like on this recording, don't tell anybody. Like, yeah, good job. For me, like I'm a livestock person.
Yeah.
Through and through. Like I will do like animal and water systems all day long. But like plants, I'm like, I don't know, put a green one there. Like, I don't know, it'd be nice. Fruit. Not, it's not that bad. Like I do get into it once I really get into it. And I mean, it's kind of like my research, like in grad school, it was like, I could pick anything. And then I'd pick something and I would get fascinated by it once I got into it. But man, like some things I could take one step and I was in, and some I had to take like 10. And then I pick up the steam, and it's like, find those things that take like 1 or 2 steps and contract out the rest. So
I love the plant portion. That's probably my favorite aspect of all of it. And then having the opportunity to research all of these different species is like, yes, this is the knowledge that I'm craving constantly.
Yay, that's awesome. Hey, actually, okay, so are you done with questions?
Oh yeah, I'm finished. No more questions.
Okay, so stay on. I'm going to turn off the recording because I just wanted to chat about something. Okay.
Okay.
Stop. All right. There you go, everybody. There's your replay. Bye.